Was hospitality something you pursued or did it find you?
It actually found me. So that's a great question. I think many of us who are in hospitality have a similar story of it finding us. Many of us has started out either as a night auditor, which is a 11 to 7 overnight shift, and or housekeeping front desk. For my story, I was a stay-at-home mom with 2 young children, and I wished to have adult conversation. So I thought, hey, a weekend hospitality job is for me. I was the 3 to 11 front desk associate, Friday, 3 to 11 on Saturday, and 7 to 3 on Sunday. So as you can imagine, I dealt with everything that your weekend transient guest experience. So I just dove right in and I started drinking the Kool-Aid. That's kind of when I figured this is for me. Other than being a mom, this was the best career decision for me. So that's how I got into hospitality.
Hi, welcome to Deep Current by Oceans. I'm your host, Kaylor, and today I'm joined by Amy Howland. She is the Senior VP of Growth and Performance at ARK Hospitality. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you, Kaylor.
So, Amy, tell us about your career. Was hospitality something you pursued or did it find you?
It actually found me. So that's a great question. I think many of us who are in hospitality have a similar story of it finding us. Many of us has started out either as a night auditor, which is a 11 to 7 overnight shift, and or housekeeping front desk. For my story, I was a stay-at-home mom with 2 young children, and I wished to have adult conversation. So I thought, hey, a weekend hospitality job is for me. I was the 3 to 11 front desk associate, Friday, 3 to 11 on Saturday, and 7 to 3 on Sunday. So as you can imagine, I dealt with everything that your weekend transient guest experience. So I just dove right in and I started drinking the Kool-Aid. That's kind of when I figured this is for me. Other than being a mom, this was the best career decision for me. So that's how I got into hospitality.
Well, tell me a little bit more because the first time we met, I remember the story was quite interesting about how you kind of moved up the ranks into your current role. So if you could just share a little bit more, I'll be thrilled to hear it.
Absolutely. So I moved from being a front desk associate to being an executive housekeeper to being an assistant general manager. Then they put me in sales because they thought, hey, you have a very outgoing personality, put me in sales, but I started giving everything away. And they quickly pivoted me back to operations and said, we think you're a much better operator than you are a salesperson. And so I stayed in operations. I grew into an area manager role really before I knew I was an area manager role. I am one of those individuals or leaders that like to juggle many projects at one time. So I could have upwards of 15 to 20 different projects in the air at any given time. And knock on wood, luckily nothing drops. But that's kind of the adrenaline of it, meaning that I'm very project oriented. Grew into an area manager role, meaning I managed 2 properties. Then I grew into what's called a regional manager role, which I had upwards of 17 properties at a time. From there, I grew into a regional vice president role. And then where I thought my hospitality career kind of peaked was a senior vice president of operations. But man, was I wrong. My career just continues to elevate. And I think it's one of those career paths that sky's the limit. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that now a COO or a CEO role is appealing, which if you would have asked me 25 years ago, Amy, would you foresee yourself as a CEO? I would have said, absolutely not. But I think a career rise in hospitality, the sky's the limit. And you never know where it's going to take you.
That's a story I've heard before. It's the drive and the motivation and the passion for the industry that takes people to their next level in this career. But Amy, for a moment, tell us a little bit about what you're helping to build at ARK. I want to understand the scale of the operation, how many properties, what is it that you do, everything there is to know about the current state of ARK.
Absolutely. So ARK Hospitality, man, We started 2.5 years ago. I've been with ARK Hospitality. I'm going on 6 months now. So I'm one of the newest executive members of the committee. What I like to kind of start painting a picture of is think of a blank canvas and you've got a paintbrush in the paint can and you're getting ready to make that first stroke. That's exactly what's happening at ARK. We are formulating our brand. We are formulating our processes. We are formulating our culture. And one of the things that is very, very important to ARK Hospitality is we don't lose our culture as we grow, which for any organization, whether you're hospitality or outside of hospitality, that compromises from time to time. Everyone will say, no, we never compromise culture. Well, they may not be telling you the truth because as you grow, you can't always have the pulse check. You can't always have your finger on everything. You don't always know everyone's name. But at ARC, that is our priority, meaning that no matter how large we are, we want to still keep that family oriented feel that your voice matters, your opinion matters. We've gone from 2 hotels to 15 hotels to 20 hotels to right now, we are sitting at 107 that are currently with our organization and another 16 in the pipeline. So we're looking at by the end of 2026, we very well could be 150 plus.
Mhm. That is insane growth for, let's say, how young the company is. What do you think has been the secret to such rapid growth?
Absolutely. So the secret sauce, have you to our knowledge, we are the only third party management company that allows you to choose a la carte services. You can have us choose to manage every aspect of the operation for you, from accounting to operations to sales to revenue management to risk to HR. Or you can choose to say, "Hey, right now, I only have a need for accounting. That's what I would like you to operate." Great. We'll operate accounting for you. Let's say you say, you know what, we've got accounting locked down. We really need HR. We really need sales and revenue management. Great. That's what we'll do for you. The reason we do this is we want you to see what we can do, whether it's all at once or whether it's biting off bit sized pieces that makes that individual, that owner comfortable in the hopes that 6 months, 3 months, a year, that we'll be managing not only that asset, but your whole portfolio.
That's a very smart approach. Do you have top 2 to 3 solutions that are most demanded by potential customers? Let's say, I mean, like you described, accounting. I mean, let's say most of them come for the accounting and stay for the rest of the solutions and upscale. Is that something that you see happening? Can you tell if there's a pattern?
There is a pattern. So historically, they come for either sales or revenue management first because they want to make the money. And they want that money to come to the top line so that they, of course, can drive it to the bottom line. So historically, that is the first thing that comes to us. Second thing that historically comes to us is accounting. And ironically, the third is operations.
Okay.
And operations historically is kind of last because if you think about an owner, especially someone who's been family owned and operated, giving up that control in operations is very difficult, meaning it's a trust. In any relationship, when you start out, you can say you trust someone, but do you really trust them with your family's inheritance? Do you trust them with a multi-million dollar asset? That's kind of hard to swallow. So you want to see what we can do, show the results, put the money where our mouth is, as we like to say, very simply said, drive the performance, and then that trust continues to build to where that individual feels that they can handle this. Now, when I say trust, that doesn't mean that they may not be involved in the day to day. It's a process, just like a new relationship. It's a process. So they may be very involved and that may stagger looking at, the following quarter. It may be less involvement. But I think it's also that commitment, doing what you say, meaning what you say, meaning keeping that owner involved in the decision making process that really drives that total relationship and drives that
Absolutely.
trust.
So, Amy, tell me more about your title again is Senior VP of Growth and Performance. And that could mean many things to many people. So, I want to really understand beyond the role description, what are you spending your day to day doing?
Absolutely. There are no 2 days that look alike. So, meaning, for example, today I am boots on the ground. We are opening a brand new hotel here in Georgetown, Texas, and I'm here to support the regional manager, the on-site leader. I'm here as an owner liaison just to ensure that we get this property across the finish line. Now, I may not do that for every property. This is one of our clients that is high touch client. So historically, I will get involved or a member of my team will get involved. I'm also working through 7 different projects that we are writing performance for. So meaning that we are bidding the deal, involved in the decision making process of is this the right client for us? Is this the right deal for us? So from time to time, our president, Aaron Walker, will lean in to our executive committee, get our thoughts, and then we move forward, or maybe we don't move forward. So that is, to me, that is part of our feel as a company. Not every president would do that, meaning that historically, presidents make the decisions, and then the committee will make that happen. In our situation, we make the decisions together, which is important. Client relationships. So many times I am texting with our owners, I am calling our owners, they're calling me. Um, Having a pulse check on the day to day operations is critical, meaning that anticipating their questions, anticipating what's going to be important to them. So many times you'll find me awake at 5, 4 in the morning looking at night audit reports, seeing how their portfolio or their asset is performing, anticipating any questions, celebrating. If they had a sold out night, like personally making a phone call to that team and saying, "Well done." That's part of our culture. That's part of our what we call all in or as one culture, which is really important to us. So strategy, strategic thinking. That is a big part of my role here. So finding those platforms, elevating our processes using AI, which I was hesitant to say, but finding the AI platforms that work for us and work for our owners without losing the human touch. Because I think that that could be a whole nother podcast conversation. But many are in that era right now of how we utilize AI or how we choose to not utilize AI. But the strategic thinking is a big part of my role. And then, of course, driving performance as a company.
There's a lot there that I'd love to unpack as we continue the conversation, but let me start with this. Hospitality is one of those, I say, industries where leaders could be doing all sorts of different things and hold the same title, and you already kind of describe what you're doing. But if you had to, and I know this might be a difficult question to answer off the top of your head, but if you had to assign what percentage you spend on growth versus on making sure things are healthy and don't fall through the cracks, what's the distribution there in your mind?
Absolutely. So I think growth is anywhere from 35 to 40%. And then the remainder is on performance because without performance, the growth isn't going to happen.
Totally. Well, I mean, that sounds like a healthy distribution, definitely. And then out of those percentages, how much time are you spending on the field versus at your desk dealing with everything that goes behind the scenes?
Well, that's a great question. So I'm a Delta loyal person, meaning that shout out to Delta. But I'm already a gold member, if that tells you anything for this year. I was platinum last year, so I'm in the air a lot, meaning that just as clients trust us for a positive overnight stay, I rely on either windshield time, meaning car time, or flight time, internet has to work because I'm constantly working. Now, you may say, Amy, that's unhealthy. When it's your passion and you're making a difference and you feel like you're part of a process, it's not a job. It's your passion. So I spent a lot of hours working. Now in front of my desk or in front of a computer at home, I would say maybe 20% of my time is there. And then I would say 80% of my time is traveling. We have 4 offices spread across the US. So either I am at one of our locations partnering, talking strategy, forward thinking, maybe even putting some fires out, maybe even saying, hey, we didn't do this well. What did we learn from that? What are we going to do moving forward? So there's a lot of that in person. We also utilize Teams, yes, but historically, if I'm on a call, I'm somewhere. I'm somewhere in the field because I think that's where you make the difference. You make the difference with the people.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a mix. You are
It
traveling and
is.
at the same time behind the screen. Yeah, that makes
Yes.
sense for a role like yours. Now, Amy, tell me, what is something about the operation that you're very happy as it is today, that you feel everybody's doing great, that your team has figured out, that you have figured out, that you're very satisfied with?
My goodness. There's a lot that we are satisfied with, but I think looking at an executive team, meaning that looking at their key players for each department, we've got it right. meaning we've got the right players to move our hospitality forward. What I mean by that is we have the right VP of accounting, we have the right VP of commercial strategy, we have the right VP of operations, we have the right VP of people and culture. Now, you may say, Amy, what's people and culture? That's what we call our HR department because it's all about people and culture. So I would have to say that's the first thing that we're doing right. Because in order to drive performance and to drive growth, you have to have the right players in place. And so that's one thing that we're doing right. I would say the second thing that we're doing right is we pivot when necessary, meaning we don't waste a lot of time on a strategy or a process if we recognize in advance that or early on that it's not going to work for us. We simply pivot and we look for a process or a platform or something that will work, that will fit for us. So we don't waste time. We don't go down those rabbit holes as they call them. We don't escalate and try a different strategy with the same process. No, we just toss it and we pivot.
Great. Quick digression there, but people and culture is also how we call our HR, and I strongly stand behind the symbolism there. But I just thought it was fun. And then, Amy, I mean, that's what you're very satisfied with. Tell me about a part of your job that is hard for you now, either because you haven't figured out the right tool or because it's just hard by design. What would that be?
Well, I'm going to tell my age here a little bit. So I am a Gen X personality. Obviously, I'm Gen X. And what I mean by that is when I was in high school, we used typewriters. So, yes, I am aging myself. So, technology has been something that even across the span of my career, I've really had to embrace. And we're in the world of AI, we're in the world of BI analytics. And it's taken me quite a while to understand just how heavily BI is to any industry today. So, right now, we are sourcing trial and error a platform that will work for us. And so, what do I mean by that? It's very important for us to provide quality financials, quality reporting to our owners. It's not only in our verbal communication, but it's in our written. So they no longer want a simple spreadsheet. They no longer want a simple PowerPoint. They want graphs. They want interactive graphs. They want that fancy kind of new toy that's on the market. And we have to keep up. And I will tell you, BI changes every day. I've never seen anything like it. So we have brought on an analyst, which I think is going to be a very key position within our organization to help drive our next level. Like, what does BI mean for us? What does that reporting package mean for us? Now, the reporting package may not be the same for every owner. However, what I will say is that the quality and the innovation of the report is what matters. So we want to stand out. Not every owner puts all of their assets with one management company. They may be utilizing two or three management companies, and we want to stand out. We want them to go to their other owners or other management companies and say, this is what ARK Hospitality does for us. We want you to do what ARK is doing. And we want that to really resonate with every owner that we have. So it's almost like the power of one. We operate in the power of one. We operate with that one owner, that one decision, that one strategy, that one platform that's going to make all the difference. And then we move to the next one. So I know that was kind of a long-winded answer, but I would definitely say BI.
No, and I think it's a great response. And that actually it's a perfect segue into something I wanted to bring up to you, which is from my conversations with hospitality leaders, it's clear to me that a couple of things are going on. One of them is hospitality will be a human industry and it will be for a long, long time, I believe, because it needs people to drive it. And that's leading to the second aspect of this, which is the normalization of technology in hospitality. It's unique because this is one of the industries where I see that there is such variance in the leverage that leaders are making of this technology. By that, what I mean is I meet with the person that still uses like two systems and an Excel file and swear by it. And everything's working for them. And that's where they want to stay for a little while. And we have other leaders who now have 7 tools, all interconnected, plus their own dashboards, and they swear by that solution as well. And I haven't really been able to figure out if there is a perfect mix. And I don't think there is, but I want to understand from your standpoint. And because you said technology is kind of a challenging thing for you, but I mean, you are a power user of it in hospitality. So how do you leverage it? How does ARK leverage it? and what is most important to you today?
Thank you for asking that question because I think recognition of it's not one size fits all, meaning that we as ARK Hospitality manage multiple different management and brands. So, meaning that we manage Marriott, we manage Hilton, we manage IHG, we manage Choice, Wyndham, the list goes on and on. And the brand leads the decisions in how antiquated they are going to be with technology. However, it is the day to day operations that will either make or break that technology. And what I mean by that is digital keys. If you go to a hotel nowadays, you can choose as a guest to either go to the front desk, do your normal greeting, tell us about the hotel. Here's your key to your room. Here's how you get there. Here's where breakfast is. Here's where the pool is, starting that conversation. But there are other guests that are like, just give me my digital key. I want to pick my room. I just want to go to my room. They may not have zero interaction with it or our associates at all. So we have to find a way or a platform, those style of guests, how can we still make an impact on them? How can we still create a memorable experience? It's been chat. It's being utilizing a platform that we can chat with them without doing it over the phone. So we can simply text them. Now you may say, Amy, text still not a human touch. Is it or isn't it? Because if you think about how much time within a day you spend texting someone versus picking up a phone and calling, it's probably more text heavy than it is call heavy. So we've learned to be very self-aware within that specific asset of what's going to work. Now, of course, when someone has a problem, what do? They blast us on social media, meaning that they're going to tell everyone that is willing to hear about their story. So we have to quickly say, are we going to utilize a platform that's going to recognize the minute that survey hits, it's going to recognize it, it's going to respond to it, it's going to problem solve, it's going to find a solution, it's going to resolve it. And or are we going to rely on our general manager, our assistant general manager, maybe even our service ambassador? Who are we going to rely on to resolve that? What we found over the last 6 months is although we would like to say it's going to be done by a human, it's not. It's going to be technology because the guest isn't going to wait 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, a day for a response. They want an immediate response. And that's where that electronic form comes into play.
Amy, I think you put yourself in a bit of a funny position here, and I will be pulling you out of your comfort zone because while you're telling me that technology is kind of this area that you like to be more knowledgeable and that's being a bit of a challenge for you, you have such unique perspectives and instincts that I believe pair directly into the use of technology in 2026 for something like hospitality that I just need to ask you these questions. And the first one here would be to the point that you made on BI, which I think is 100% right. There are two sets of data that ARK would be dealing with, and I may be reading this wrong, but you'll tell me. One of them is what goes on inside the operation. What's macro? What can you look at and make decisions for the organization itself versus what are those silos for each of the properties or each of the groups of properties that you're managing that are important for them specifically, like you just said, that are just unique to their operation and what we do for them. Where do you envision this going? Like, how do you organize this information so that you can make decisions both at the level of ARC and at the individual level of the properties that you support?
Wow, that's a tough question. And you're right. Takes me out of my comfort zone here. I'm going to go back to communication. I'm going to go back to we don't have silos within ARC. In fact, we don't even know what silos means. And what I mean by that is we may have a history within our careers, within our past experiences where we have been in a siloed organization. And I would like to think that everyone listening to this podcast would agree that it simply doesn't work. Meaning that you've got to break down that communication barrier. Now, you may say, Amy, that's not what you just said to me. Well, it kind of is because hospitality is not a one size fits all, meaning that brands all have different guidelines, hotels have all different needs. However, the one thing that doesn't change, whether it's human interaction or it's utilizing a platform, is communication. You've got to communicate. So either you're going to tell this BI, chat, GPT, what have you, whatever you're choosing to use, what you want to say or what your thoughts are, and then it tells you or it gives you some thoughts, and or you're in the midst of a conversation and you're having that in live real time. So I'm going to say communication. So the silos is the minute you see a silo, break it down. Don't allow it within your organization, because the minute you allow that silo to start building and start growing, it's going to be very hard to get it down. And I say that because then it comes empowerment. Then it comes into, well, I'm part of this department, or this department's doing this. Well, no, our organization is doing this. Our company is doing this. That is where I'm going to really plug in right now, that as one. If you talk to anyone within ARK Hospitality and you just say simply as, that second person's going to say one, because it's a mantra. It is we say it all the time. And what that means is we all cross over barriers. We all cross over lines. So I'm going to go back to that silo. Even though my title is SVP of Growth and Performance, today you find me in jeans and a t-shirt, making sure our hotel is ready to open. Tomorrow, you may find me in a meeting with executives. The next day, you may find me in a boardroom with owners. We cross over lines all the time because we're as one. So I'm hoping that that answered your question in maybe a roundabout way.
No, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Now, I think culturally you're 100% right, but in reality, you sometimes see something else entirely. And again, this might or might not be case, but across departments, for example, I imagine data looks different. I mean, they're making decisions based on different data. I guess my question is also, how does this data currently interconnect? Do you feel that decisions made within a specific department already contemplate not just culturally, but intrinsically and tangibly the data that is happening across the rest of the organization, or is currently largely depending on the judgment of each of the leaders to come and share that information proactively?
So I think it's both. So the department leaders share proactively. I'm going to go to Monday. We have what's called an ARC leadership call. This call kicks off at 9 a.m. Eastern time and sometimes goes until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You may say, Amy, that's a lot of salary on a call, which it is. It's a lot of time. Well, we're invested in each other. We are communicating. There may be some multitasking going on. I would be lying if I told you there wasn't, but you're intentionally listening, you're present. You are hearing what every department is doing along with data. So meaning we share our screens. We're showing where that data is coming from. Now, historically, sales and revenue management provide data to operations and then we make decisions. Operations will come back and say, well, that's just not doable, or okay, that's doable, let's go. The most important thing is the strategy, talking it through. Not one person isn't making a decision. Not one person's providing the data and saying, this is what you're required to do. It's, hey, here's the data. What do you think? So it's okay to disagree. It's it's even okay to feel uncomfortable. Feeling uncomfortable is where you grow, right? We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna trial and error, sure. But the most important thing is, what do you learn from that mistake? What do you take away from it? Where are you gonna drive that performance to next? Data, yes, is very important, but I think the why, I'm a why leader. And so it's drilling down that why until the respectable person feels like the answer's been answered or the question's been answered. Why?
Got it. Yeah. And then on that topic of visibility, you have then the stakeholders, the property owners, right, that you are supporting. Coming back to something that you mentioned about the thirst that they have for real-time data and visibility into how their operation is running. How do you currently manage that? And do you envision that as the final state of the way that it is supposed to be done? Or are you actively exploring some of these common requests that you're getting from them?
We're actively exploring. So that's where the analyst comes into play. We lean into our brands, we lean into our current platforms that we're extracting data from. So, meaning you've got in hospitality lingo, you have a night audit report. So, that's how you performed. You've got something called a forecast, which a lot of times our owners are living in that 90-day forecast. We are actually already looking at budget season for 2027. So, even though we are approaching May, we're already looking at 2027 because we have strategies in place. We have business plans in place that should be driving our decisions. However, we also need to be looking at markets. We need to be looking at trends. We need to be thinking about what is going to happen quarter 4 next year that could be changing those decisions, that we may need to pivot, or we may be acing it, meaning that, hey, we found that niche in that particular market. We're going to drive those results there. But Having data to make those decisions is critical. So there's not one report that we lean into. So many people are talking about CoStar, that's your star reports. Many people are talking about Lighthouse, which is a new platform. Many people are talking about Agency 360. You can get your hands on all this data, which I could have a whole computer full of it right now. But it's what I do with the data and how I analyze it that's going to change the trajectory of that particular hotel.
Hmm.
If I just let the data sit there, not gonna do anything.
Yeah, totally. And what's the data that the property owners are most thirsty for? Do you have like, I mean, again, like you said, I guess it's unique to each person, but there's got to be a pattern. Like there's got to be a few things that you know everybody is after. They definitely want to know, and that are basically common things on the
Sure.
to-do list.
Forecast. That is probably one of the number one things is forecast. What are we going to commit to them to do for revenue over the next 90 days? If we are going to achieve that budget, by how much? If we're not going to achieve that budget, are we going to flex expenses? So what I mean by that is you'll get to the GOP line or you get into the NOI line of a P&L, and that's truly what an owner's looking at. Are you bringing money to the bottom line? Well, if you're achieving your budget, of course, you need to bring 50, 60% to the bottom line, which is industry standard. If you are not going to achieve it, you need to know why. That's number one. And then how are you going to flex your expenses so that you can still bring what you committed to the owner to the bottom line? You may say, Amy, that could be challenging. Well, of course it's challenging, but that's what we signed up for. The owner doesn't invest money to lose money. They invest money to make money. So it's up to us to make the money for them.
During this show, I often like to, at least at some point during the episode, throw a bit of a curveball at my guest. That's become a bit of a bad habit, I would say. And in your specific case, I think I know which one it is, because as I hear you talk about all of what goes into operation like this, and at the same time, I can't help but continue to think about how explosive the growth has been. The next logical question is scalability, right? And if you say wanted to duplicate the number of properties that you're supporting by a year or in 2 years or whatever, what's the biggest hurdle right now? Is it hands? Is it staff? Is it technology? What is it in your mind? And even if you can bring out like a couple of things that you believe are
Sure.
top of mind, not just for you, but I imagine for the rest of the executive leadership.
Sure. This is a fun question. This will probably be a fun curveball. So, in January of this year, of course, I mentioned that I am new to ARK. I'm only about 6 months in. We have what's called an ARK huddle. And on this ARK huddle is above property leaders. And it was how many hotels did we open in 2025 and who got it right? So, what I mean by that is everyone had a guess at the beginning of the year. Where are we going to end 2025? How many hotels are we going to have open? So, of course, somebody was within 5. They won this great dinner. Woohoo, fantastic. Then we went into 2026. So we did a whole thing of what's your number. Now, mind you, we have got the president of ARC on, Aaron Walker. We have got our founder, Azim Sedju, on the call. And you would think that they're going to be one of the higher numbers, right? Because they're looking to grow ARC. Ironically, we got to Azim and it was kind of quiet. And he said, I'm going to disagree with all of you. And he said, our magic number is 159. I want to say 158, 159. And we're all just like, well, wait, at 107, 117, like 159, like why? The why was we have to be self aware of our platforms and our processes. And we have to grow with the business, but we have to grow the right way. So, sure, we can take on 200 properties, any company out there. They want to grow, 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 grow. But do they have the foundation to grow? Do they have the right processes to grow? We've been very self aware I mentioned BI early on, that we've got to get a grasp around that. We have to understand what is the right decision for ARC. So that's what we're doing right now. We're in that decision strategy mode of what platform are we going to pivot to, or what process are we going to pivot to, so that we can ensure as we grow with it. So if you're not embracing one particular process, it's easy to say, well, okay, toss it out the window. I talked about pivoting earlier, but when you're looking at dashboards and you're looking at, I mentioned multi-million dollar assets, we're a $1 billion company. It's a lot of money. That's a lot of responsibility. So ensuring we have the process to take care of it is key. So that's where, even though I shared with you, sure, we've got hotels that we're in the process of onboarding. We're opening one tomorrow, but scaling it back, it's going to be very interesting how we end 2026. I'm going to be very interested to know, did we achieve above 160? Did we stay below it? And then the why. I think Azim, hearing him say that really was a key moment of pause and saying, okay, why does our founder think that? Like, what's driving that decision? What do we have some cracks in the foundation? We're only 2.5 years old. So there shouldn't be any cracks in the foundation, right? It's a new company. Of course, there's cracks in the foundation. You bring all this experience from all these different organizations, but he's got to copy paste. What I mean by that is, we need a job description. I have one for my prior employer, copy paste. Oh, you need a new checklist. No problem. I have that, copy paste. How many copy paste are out there? Are we all using the same copy paste, or are we utilizing multiple different copy and paste where nobody knows what's being utilized? And that's kind of where we're at right now. We're at the pause. We've got a portal now that we utilize. Any master forms that we use go on the portal. If you're wanting to go outside of that master form, why? If it's something that's going to benefit the whole company, we delete and then we paste. So, meaning it's not a copy of a copy of a copy, it's one master form. So, that's right now where we are as a company. We are ensuring that our foundation is strong.
Well, that's the very, very insightful and actually a very mature answer from your leaders as well. And I think it's on point. But let me ask you this now that you have this renewed perspective. What do you think is the real cost? Because you're in a very unique position. Like I said, explosive growth paired with a limited set of hands and tools and resources. And it's easy to get swayed by that thirst of more growth, kind of get euphoric. And a lot of companies do that. So, in your mind, what is the real cost and risk of unmeasured scaling and unmeasured growth without taking a moment to step back and figure if we are set up foundationally to support it?
It's a risk. What I mean by that is, obviously, you may have, I talked about the power of one. You may have that one owner that comes to you wanting to sign a contract. They want to do business with us. What they may not share with you is that they are purchasing a portfolio of 50. So that one hotel could turn into 51 hotels. Not every owner is going to be transparent. We can do our homework and think that we know, but do we really know? So I think it's the right questions. It is intentional, which we use that word a lot within our company. It's intentional, and make the right decision. Be willing to take the risk. Be willing to pause and say, you know what? Maybe that isn't the right piece of business for us. Or maybe, maybe we're not prepared for that. What do we need to do to get prepared? And then what do we communicate to that client? Hey, are you willing to pause for a month? Are you willing to pause for 60 days? Are you willing to pause for a quarter? Here's our why. This is why we're asking you, because we want to deliver the results that you're looking for. However, we don't have necessarily the capability, but we're going to invest in it. We're going to ensure that when you sign that contract, we can deliver. And here's what we're willing to do. So it goes back to communication,
Totally.
but it's definitely risky. It's definitely risky.
Yeah, I think it takes maturity to be able to, hey, take that step back and say, you know what, we recognize that are things that should improve or become stronger foundationally so that we can support the operation because down the road, otherwise, risk things is starting to slowly fall through the cracks and then crumbling down. So I think that's an excellent perspective
Absolutely.
and an excellent approach. Now, Amy, I'd like to at least be able to dive into the weeds for a moment. Just to kind of get a feel for how you look at operation in a micro level. And one of those things that comes up very often is F&B operations. And I imagine that you have a team for that and that there are people in charge of it. But again, just to kind of get a taste for how ARK does it. If a hotel is delegating F&B operations to you, how do you approach things like inventory and management, for example, so that
Hmm.
food cost doesn't start running
Hmm.
above what it should be? Like, give me that example so that I can kind of understand what the process looks like for you.
Sure. So we're a mixture of extended stay, select service, full service, adventures, boutique hotels. We've got it all. But we also have expert leaders within those fields. So meaning that we're looking at a hotel that's got an F&B outlet, we're going to lean into that team that are experts on F&B. We're not going to lean into someone that's never done F&B. So this is going to go down to menu creation. It's going to go into inventory controls. It's going to go into cross of food concepts. So, meaning, are you going to have a menu that you have one food item that's only used for one entree? No. You're going to be able to cross utilize that across multiple entrees. The inventory is going to be key. And then it's going to go back down to vendor. Who are you choosing as your vendors and why? Depending on the hotel and depending on the concept, you may choose to do a farm to table, meaning that you may partner with a local produce, a farmer, someone locally that could drive those costs down, but the quality is there. Now, I don't want to knock any of our current vendors and say, if it's coming from a farm or it's coming from, a truck that's delivered, it's all quality. Absolutely. But the concept's a little different. Food waste. How much food are we wasting and why? All of those things go into the decision making. But I think the other food F&B concept is knowing your market and knowing what your guests and or your clients want. So meaning that if you are in the middle of the Midwest, are you going to say that you are fresh seafood? Probably not. There's not necessarily an ocean close by in the Midwest. Maybe a local lake, sure. Specialize in what your market specializes in. Know your guests. Ask them. We've done several different survey monkeys of our top clients and saying we're thinking of putting a hotel here or an F&B outlet here. What do you think would sell? What does that market want? Catering to that, meaning that knowing, are you wanting that outlet to be profitable or are you wanting to break even? You would be surprised how many owners just want to break even. They just want an experience. They just want the guest to have convenience. If you look at your markets, which is kind of like your pantry outlet, it's there for convenience. It's not necessarily there to be extremely profitable. Some of your F&B outlets are much in the same. So it really depends on the concept.
That's a that's a surprising one. Actually, I don't hear that often.
Mhm.
Like on the strategic value of breaking even on certain aspects of the business. That's a topic on its own that we could potentially break down for hours. Another aspect that I'm very curious about when it comes down to the details of the operation like this is staffing and scheduling. And the reason I'm asking you this is again, I keep hearing it. This is a headache even for guests that I've interviewed that had one restaurant. First, because the churn is really high in the industry. It's like at 70-80% today, I think, on a year by year basis, which is a lot of rotation. And since you're managing so many multiple properties, what's the approach that ARK takes to staffing and scheduling in a way that's again scalable, that's healthy for the people that are working those jobs, and at the same time allows you to have a good grasp into what's going on in the operation without things falling apart because a key person left or is absent on a certain day, and things like that.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start with retention. I'm going to say it's very important to retain your staff. It's important to hire the right people for the right positions, but it's also important to retain them. That's where culture comes into play. That's where knowing your team, investing in your team, not being an office leader, being out there with your team. Cross training. So that's going to be a huge one to answer this question. We cross train all the time, meaning that we don't just have somebody that can only work the front desk from 3 to 11. They can't work outside of that. They're not interested in doing anything else. Now, I'm not saying we don't have individuals like that, but be aware of that. Ask those questions. What is your schedule availability? What do you want to work? What department do you want to work in? Put people where they want to work. Don't put people where they don't want to work. Don't put people on shifts that they already told you they're not available for. Then you deserve that call in because you don't know your team or you don't know that associate. So it used to be that, okay, you need 15 associates to run this hotel. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe you can run it with more, maybe you can run it with less. However, you need to know your CPOR. You need to know your labor effectiveness. You need to know, are you within budget guidelines or are you without? A lot of times what tell everyone is stop looking at the department. I'm going to tell you, you've got $10,000 a week every 2 weeks to spend in labor. How you choose to spend it is on you. I want you to make the decision. Tell me how you're going to spend it. Come back to me with a forecast. That's what forecasting is all about. And then execute it. So I think telling someone that you go with the bigger mindset, the bucket of money. How do you going to spend it? Empower the leader to make that decision. I think when you've got above property support telling versus guiding, empowering, that's where another big difference is going to happen because trust them. You trust them with a multi-million dollar asset. Allow them to manage it. Allow them to be the CEO of that property, but hold them accountable. Meaning if there's opportunities and you have labor overages, understand why. We get back to that why again. Understand the why. and then pivot. What's the strategy? How can we help you? Is it maybe you hired the wrong leader? Well, why did you hire the wrong leader? What do we need to do? Do we need to transfer that? What needs to happen? But I think it goes back to the communication piece too.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And again, that's another topic that I think we could spend a lot of time in. I mean, all of these are, but given that we're coming toward the end of our time here, I mean, just as we kind of shift to a future forward perspective of where you see all of this heading, let me ask you a question. And again, this is a fun one. I always like to ask this one. And based on what you've told me so far, I can already picture that you have this bucket list of things that you love to be able to do today. And obviously, you have to work through that backlog, right? And problems that you have got to solve, things that you know can be improved. So if you had to pick one of them now, just to tell me, hey, this is one that's been on my mind for a while that I would love to be able to tackle. Do you have an example like that?
I would love one BI platform that can do it all. Do it all. Meaning that it can forecast, it can run data, it can do comparisons, it can do market shops, it can tell the future. I would like a one-stop shop. And maybe that's asking a lot. Maybe it's not out there. I would love to think that it is. However, I would like to put all my eggs in one basket for that. Meaning I don't want to use multiple platforms for a platform that can do it all. So I think that is where I'm really drilling down and leaning into our analyst, analytic individual, leaning into our VPs to say, what is it you need for your department to be successful? And what platform can do that for us? So starting to narrow it down, meaning if I look back to 2 years ago, sure, we're using more platforms than we used to, but they're more intentional, meaning that we've drilled down to what is going to be most effective for us. So I want us to drill down even more. I'm going to challenge us to find that one platform.
I think that's a very common one. I am not entirely sure there's that one platform, but I've heard everybody go in a lot of different ways for that one. And I would have to agree. It's a really big one. It's top of the list for
Mhm.
many people. So,
Yep.
Amy, again, just let me close with a quick lightning round because I think you've gotten a lot of value out of this conversation already. But I always like to finish this just with thoughts that you might have off the top of your head without overthinking. I'm gonna throw you a couple questions, and I just want you to respond based on your experience so far. So let me start with this one. What is in your mind the most overrated thing in hospitality technology?
Overrated thing in technology is the PMS system, meaning the
Wow.
property management support system. I think is overrated.
Wow. Okay, that's a controversial take. Also for another time to discuss. What is a system then that in your opinion is absolutely critical?
I think it is star reporting, meaning how is the market performing and
Mhm.
how are we measuring against our comp set. I think that's critical.
Great. So in your mind, what are great operators doing that average operators are not doing?
They're taking risk. They're being uncomfortable.
Great. And last but not least, Amy, if you were not in hospitality today, which I know is hard to imagine, what would you be doing?
I would be sitting on a beach reading a book. I would be retired. I don't think there's any other career out there for me other than hospitality. I can't imagine it.
Okay. Great. Well, on that note, Amy, I gotta let you go now. But again, thank you so much for the conversation. I think it was the passion that you have for the industry comes across from miles away, honestly. And I'm just so happy to hear about all of your experience organically growing in the industry at the same time how pragmatic your perspective is on all of the different aspects that go into making an operation like this successful. So appreciate once again your participation. Amy, of course, if our listeners want to follow you or what you're building at ARK, where can they go?
Absolutely. They can follow us on LinkedIn. Just look for ARK Hospitality. And if you want to go to our website, it's arkhospitality.com. And if you want to reach out to me, I am on LinkedIn. So look for Amy Howland. Let's connect.
You heard Amy. Go check this out. And thank you for listening to Deep Current by Oceans. If you are an operator dealing with any of the challenges Amy described here today, or have gotten past all of that, or just want to keep the conversation going, feel free to reach out to Amy or to us. You can find us at oceanscode.com. And until next time.
Thank you.